Welcome to the Tamworth FC Social, a podcast about Tamworth Football Club. It is season review time. I'm Jonathan and I'm joined by Brett and Graham to look back on 2024-25. Graham, we've had a little bit of time now since Tamworth's league season ended. What are your immediate thoughts and reflections as we kick this episode off?
Wow, what an amazing season we've had. Everything about it's been brilliant. It's just been fantastic. So it's kind of like when the final game came to the end, I was kind of almost like sad that it's finished because just enjoying it so much. And it felt like we'd grown into the season, into the second half of it. And every game we were going into, you felt like we could get something out of it or win it, or it always felt like we were in games. Earlier on in the season, we were feeling our way into it really, and we were still learning. But the second half of the season was brilliant really, and the run that we went on to get us to almost be in the playoffs was just something unreal and quite surreal. And if we hadn't gotten that playoffs, which I think we probably should have done in some ways, I think there was points that we lost that we played pretty well in. And if we'd have got those extra points, then I think we could have well have been playing the likes of Southend, etc. So yeah, it's been fantastic. And then to cap it off with the Birmingham Senior Cup win, three trophies in 3 seasons keeps that momentum going. And just I almost feel like this was a feels like it was a better year than last year because of what was achieved with not just staying up, but what we've nearly done in getting to the playoffs and the FA Cup third round and just the whole kind of feel of what's going on at the club at the moment. So yeah, just excited for what's next really now.
That was something I was going to ask you guys. Like, Brett, how does it feel with last season having been a title winning year, and obviously the season before that as well, but then it's been a successful season this time around, but for different reasons.
At the end of season awards, the club were talking about this season being the best season ever, which I suppose if you go on everything that we've achieved and stats, then yeah, it probably is. I think probably need a bit of time to put this whole period into perspective over whether this season eclipses last season. I guess maybe the main difference between the two is probably the two title years were a bit more kind of like a project together. So it kind of felt like it was, while it obviously, of course, it's two separate seasons, it felt like they were both done together. And this was like the next stage of it almost. So you'd like to think that in 5 years' time, this year you'll look back and go, that was the platform that we really, really built on. 2 amazing years, and then an even better third year, which we then consolidated and used as a platform to continue to build. I've loved all of the last 3 seasons, so I think it's going to be really difficult to kind of pinpoint it as a season alone or whether it's going to be a period of time. I mean, I wasn't going down at that point before during the Doc Martens League, but people who previously would have spoke about that year when we won the Doc Martens and even the year before, they don't talk about that one particular season. They talk about when we were in the Doc Martens. So I think we'll look back and it'll be a bit similar to that.
So I thought we would start off like by talking about some highlights throughout the season, then we can go into a bit more detail, competition by competition, players and things like that. So we think all the way back to the first game of the league season at home to Sutton, when we were reflecting on the 1-1 draw there, that was kind of a bit of an acid test almost for the team. And then I suppose from there you could just see the team growing as the season went on. Like what Graham would your highlights be if I could get you to distill them down into a couple of moments?
Well, memorable moments for me, I guess, is that first game of the season. I wasn't able to be there, but tuning into it and then kind of hearing, yeah, us up against a club that had just come down from League Two, and to see how far we'd come to take the lead, and we obviously got a draw on the day, but fantastic. Then second game of the season to see him away at York City. it weren't the best result on the day. We were kind of we all said, "Oh, this might be a tough season ahead now." Based on that, obviously York City did incredibly well, and then I think sort of getting that first win against Aldershot was absolutely brilliant, and it was a bit nerve-wracking because there was so much injury time in that game. And then obviously the FA Cup runs were, to be on television and get all of the media exposure. I mean, what just unbelievable, really. And then kind of like going into like sort of second half of the season, just the runs that we've been on to get where we needed to be. I mean, just going back to the FA Cup stuff, obviously the Burton game stands out massively as the Derby win, and then being in the surreal FA Cup third round game, watching us play Tottenham Hotspur, and almost thinking that we made them look like a National League side, which was brilliant. And yeah, just the excitement coming up to the end of the campaign where we've had something to play for, which we never thought we would do. Our aim was to stay up. 10th is incredible. So yeah, and I think that's probably my highlights. There's too many to really name. Just some of the wins that we got, even like winning away at Fylde. I think that might have been the first away victory of the season. Sort of last minute creamy header, all of that, and brilliant stuff. Just so many moments like that during the season.
I think the Braintree away win might have been first and then Fylde because I think they were back-to-back matches, weren't they? Yeah, it was. So Braintree first and then Fylde. But yes, I take your point, Graham. Anything, Brett, for you that Graham didn't mention or anything you'd like to emphasise?
I really don't know how to sum this season up, really, or how to put into words the highs. If I look back, really, I think my favourite goals have been there's been some crackers from Nathan Chakuna. The one against Sutton at home was a good goal. And you got Macclesfield in the cup, Aldershot. The Tom Tonks throwing at Huddersfield, the way I felt after that game, thinking we're never going to repeat this. And then, then we do. At Burton, and we go one better. And then it's a complete surreal day against Tottenham. The most memorable thing for me, I think, is feeling like I was a kid again and like I was 14 years old watching us get drawn against Stoke City in the FA Cup. And I really loved that because I think that's just really made me over the rest of the season feel really nostalgic. And it just, if ever you were in doubt as to, why you follow like a non-league football club, and that's really what dreams are made of.
I think the only thing I would add that's different to that is it's not even a match. It's like just a moment. It's the live TV draw for the third round, and just like the build up to that. Like I've never known so many people who've never mentioned Tamworth Football Club to me before to like actually message me. It was such a surreal feeling, and then like what I remember watching the draw and like almost mentally like ticking off the big in inverted commas club names that were getting drawn out and being like, well, who's left that would be a plum draw for Tamworth? And then when Spurs came out, very very surreal. And then even like the pre-match build up to the Spurs game, like all three of us got down to the Lamb quite early, I think, didn't we, on the day? And then seeing like the Spurs team bus arrive and the TV outside broadcast in the stadium as well, just all very very surreal. So if we break it down a little bit now by competition, so National League, obviously, as we've alluded to, was 10th place for Tamworth, record high league finish in the English pyramid, record points total at this level was 64, and a number of pretty big clubs that Tamworth finished above. Was there any surprise for you, Graham, that Tamworth kind of seemed to motor on almost after the Spurs game? Like, you may have seen it with other clubs in the past when you get a big cup draw, cup run, and then maybe the league form kind of loses a bit of momentum afterwards. But Tamworth were probably as good as they ever were during the season after the Spurs game.
Yeah, I think you've heard some of the players say it, and that it was almost like, well, if we can hold Spurs, then we can do anything now. We can beat anyone in this league, and it's obvious that they actually rather than going the other way and sort of because the Spurs game was over, losing momentum, they actually probably gained another 25%. And was it the game the week after against Boston United, remember? And they steamrolled them over and look at the run that Boston went on pretty much straight after that. So I do think we obviously kicked on and it was almost for me, even at I suppose at the start of the season, when you looked at the way we'd sort of played and the team that we got coming into the National League, there was always a feeling that, and I remember saying it, that we would surprise a few teams because nobody really knew anything about us or the players that we had. So that was going to be our biggest strength. And I think that's kind of what happened in spells at the start of the season. And then it kind of just gained massive momentum and all of the players grew confidence, all of them, and they all looked like better players as well. From Jazz Singh to Dan Creaney to Tom McGlinchey, Beck Ray. I mean, yeah, Tom Tonks and all the players just kind of like grew. Yeah, people didn't know what to expect, but even when they did know what to expect in the end, they couldn't really stop it.
All the more impressive as well with the league finish that Tamworth balanced it with numerous cup runs. Like we've just talked about the Spurs game in the third round of the FA Cup, loads of really impressive wins in the cup as well in the way to that game. We probably talked about this at the time, but like just a quick word, Graham. Like, is Spurs Tamworth against Tottenham, is that the best one-off game for you that you've watched Tamworth playing?
I have to say yes, because well, I even said it at the time. It was. Yeah, it has to be because of what it was, who we were playing, the players they were up against, what we did. And we were lucky not to win the tie. I think we were unlucky. Obviously, rode our luck a little bit at times, but probably not any more than we've done in other games in the National League during the season. So it was just an incredible occasion.
You mentioned Stoke earlier, Brett. Is Spurs the new Stoke in terms of like high profile one-off game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Stoke was probably eclipsed the year after by Norwich anyway, from a club point of view. But yeah, absolutely. Because it was just one of them moments that the longer it kept going on, it just didn't feel real. It didn't feel like you were actually watching what you were watching. I remember we came close to scoring in the second half. I remember looking down towards Chris on the terrace, and we just kind of looked at each other and kind of like mouthed to each other like, this isn't real, surely.
I've probably watched the highlights back at least 10 times. Thought, how do we not win that right at the end? It was so unlucky.
There was big wins along the way though, like Macclesfield, like clearly a very good team because they've done very well in their league season this season, and then Huddersfield talked about earlier, like an occasion that was, and then the win away at Burton, like the kind of cup run that cements why Tamworth are a bit of an FA Cup team. The FA Cup runs in like the mid 2000s, and I think it's really good that this is kind of a modern day equivalent now because there's probably fans who wouldn't remember it before. But then, yeah, like I said, there were other cup runs, of course, the Birmingham Senior Cup, which Tamworth won for the first time since 1968-69. And of course, this was Tamworth's first Birmingham Senior Cup final since 2013-14 when the Lambs played West Brom. It's just really good to have another trophy winning season, I think, as well, because it keeps that kind of winning feeling going on. And then even though they weren't cup runs to the same extent, but like the FA Trophy, like Tamworth won away at Hartlepool, didn't they, in the first game that they played in that, and then
Mm.
Sutton in the fourth round, who they got knocked out against. But I'm wondering maybe is this competition, if Tamworth keep the core side together, maybe that's a competition they can kind of target a
Yeah.
little bit because you think Aldershot ended up winning it this season. I mean they finished below Tamworth.
I don't know. I think the trophy's much harder to win now than it was when we got to the final last time. I think if you look at Aldershot, again, they're full time, whereas for us, really, we'd be relying on it's these Tuesday, Saturday games consistently where, they just end up taking their toll, really. So I think it is quite difficult. It's hard though, isn't it? Because when we got to the final, we weren't in the conference and neither were Burscough. Regularly, there is a team from outside the conference. So I don't know. I think it's a tough ask.
And then we couldn't possibly finish this section without mentioning the National League Cup, which Tamworth did not progress beyond the group stage, but another reason why the league finish was so impressive because there was extra games there, which the squad managed really well. Just thinking about the games against Burton this season, like, do you guys think that maybe revitalized the rivalry in any way? Like playing them twice in the same season, like it's been a long old time since Tamworth would have played Burton in a competitive game, Graham.
Yeah, I think that the FA Cup game meant as much to us as what it did to them. There is still that rivalry there, and if we were in the same league, without a doubt, that the derbies would be as big as they were, some years back. So I think that, yeah, I think it was good to have that competitive game again against Burton, and we've always had a good rivalry with them. I think there's always probably been pretty good banter between the fans and stuff. So it'd have been interesting if Burton had gone down to League Two this season. Obviously, they sort of survived. There'd only been one league between us then. But even coming up to that Birmingham Senior Cup final, I think Burton took a fair few because of probably what it was. I hope there's some games in the future again between the two teams.
I don't know. I just think it was great to stuff Burton in their own backyard, really, and dump them out of the cup. But do I think the rivalry has kind of reignited? I guess so. If the fact there were so many at the Lamb for the Birmingham Senior Cup final, nearly 400 Birmingham fans, that clearly shows that there's something there.
Right, let's move on to player of the season. Now, we did briefly chat about this in our last episode, but since then, the club's done its own awards for the season. So, Tom Tonks won the supporters player of the season. I think we all sort of said he was in our thoughts in terms of who we voted for. Jas Singh, who won players player of the season, and Hayden Hollis won directors player. I think there's good cases for all of those, I would say, for winning awards. Did mean that Dan Creaney missed out on one of the player of the season awards, but he did get the accolade of top goal scorer. A little bit unlucky, maybe, Brett, that Dan Creaney didn't get supporters, players, or directors player of the season award.
Yeah, definitely. And I said in the last episode before that while I had voted for Jazz Singh, I would just as happily have given it to Dan Creaney. It's a landmark season for him. Him and the club, they've done it together. So I was really shocked that Dan Creaney only won that award for being top goal scorer, third highest goal scorer in the National League as a part-time striker is, that's excellent. Was the last time we had a player at the upper echelons of the scorers chart? Well, Bob Taylor or maybe Adam Cunnington.
I don't think I've seen any like National League overall like player or manager of the season awards, but surely Creaney will be on the short list for something like that because again, it's like the context of playing for a part-time team. Like it makes what he's done all the more impressive. Did you vote for Creaney, Graham, in your when you did the supporters vote?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did vote for Creaney. To score that many goals in the National League for the first time ever, as Brett said, a part-time team, and I think the importance of scoring all those goals as well for us. And I think he's a very different striker to what was in the National League.
Season where lots of players grew. Like obviously Creaney would be one of those as well, and like really adapted and raised their game at this level. I think Tom Tonks would be another one I'd maybe highlight as well. Like across the season, how his game developed, and I think he had cult hero status anyway amongst the supporters, but he's become like a very vital member of the midfield, Brett, after this season's gone on.
Yeah, it has. I still think that we at times set up against certain teams the wrong way to be able to accommodate the long throw and probably cost us some points along the way. But ultimately, it's won us more than it's lost us. But yeah, I think in a season where obviously Milnes, the captain, has struggled for consistent game time, while you have got Jazz Singh, obviously, he's a fantastic vice captain. It's obviously very hard for him to marshal the entire team from goal. So it's good to have another kind of commander who obviously has been captain before at Stourbridge. It's good to have another experienced motivator in the middle, if you like. So yeah, I think it definitely grew in importance as the year went on.
I think the great thing about Ponce is that the supporters, they just love it, and it's something for them to get behind and a bit of a cult hero. And I think you see a lot of the young kids who've obviously seen what happened with the cup run and all the videos and all the coverage that he got around just hurling the balls into the box. And I think a lot of them will latched on to that. And when he's on the bench and Tonks comes on, it's kind of everybody kind of enjoys that. So I can understand why he probably got supporters player of the year because of that, I suppose, relationship that he's got with the fans. And he's done quite a bit of like interview and press, and he's a nice guy and down to earth and everything like that. And I think he's relatable for a lot of people and a lot of fans. So yeah, it makes sense really.
Few legends, I would say, have probably been established off the back of this season as well. Like I would say Dan Creaney for sure, Jazz Singh as well. Like, do you agree with those, Brett?
Yeah, 100%. I think if we were to do our best ever 11 again now, uh, I think Creaney would be in there. I said he needed to do it at the National League, and he more than did it. The fact that him and Jazz Singh as well have both been with us for so long, they really have seen both sides of that coin as well. They've seen it when we were getting trounced against Royston, and they played for us against Spurs on the TV. So that for those two alone is something that must be career defining when they talk about that in years to come. When they'll say, "Well, I was playing in front of 300 fans at Leiston to taking Europa League champions to extra time on a cold January afternoon."
Now, some of you who listen to the podcast may remember we did an episode last year where we talked about some of the all-time great Tamworth seasons. This season that's just gone, 2024-25, I would imagine for a lot of fans, this will be now the greatest season ever because of all the reasons we've mentioned, like the league success, or the cup successes as well. The only thing I can kind of think maybe that would seriously kind of compete are the league winning seasons under Peaks, or maybe the FA Vars winning year, because I guess for some fans, like a trip to Wembley is pretty hard to beat.
I wasn't born in the Vars one, so it's a bit before my time. But I mean, I guess the season when, and I think I said this before, like the trophy final and winning the league was good, was really good. But I don't think you can beat this season. Yeah, it's just been incredible. I think because as well now the amount of coverage you get, just even compared to then sort of going back 15 years or so, or more actually, more like 20 years, which is crazy. Yeah, I think all of that stuff and kind of what the National League is now compared to what it was. I mean, it is effectively like another football league, really. And the fact we've just been able to compete so well in there, and yeah, just I don't think you can beat this season, really, in my opinion. I think though, not just this season, kind of like as Brett alluded to earlier, like this whole period of time, these last three seasons, for me collectively, they kind of, I guess they come as a bit of an album. And however long this goes on for, whether we go over into next season, we have another incredible season for whatever reason, whatever we do, whether we go on an FA Trophy run, whether we have another top 10 finish, or even if we finish wherever, as long as we're still in the league, then I think this whole period of time is just, that's how I see it, as opposed to now kind of seeing it on a season by season basis, because we just keep having these conversations about how good it is. And that's sort of collectively been happening for the past three seasons now. So that's kind of how I see it. But I mean, probably as an individual season, it has to be our greatest based on the league finish of where we have finished, which is the best and the highest we've ever finished in a national league pyramid, and then to have that results against those higher league teams in the FA Cup, yeah, it's got to be up there as well as winning a trophy.
How would you stack it up, Brett, with like the next best finish that Tamworth have had then? So the previous record finish was 15th in 2004, 2005. Like, how does it feel now? Like, what's the comparison like?
It does feel different, but I imagine back then, first time in the conference, this brand new team that's been bubbling like a cauldron for so many years has arrived. We've got massive ambitions where, like I've mentioned on some podcasts in the past, then following year we're doing that goal sponsor where you can you can pay £10 every time Tamworth score a goal, and the strapline was pushing Tamworth towards the Football League. We haven't made any bold or brash statements like that this time around. We're very much saying, let's see, let's be competitive, be competitive, be competitive. So it'd be interesting to see if the rhetoric changes next season. And if it does, then it's got the potential, I think, the trajectory where it can just go on and on, whether that be Football League eventually or just a stalwart in the National League.
Something I've just been looking at is the home and away, like league tables. Tamworth for home only a sixth in the National League this season, which is mightily impressive, I would say. And I think it kind of backs up what we all would think in terms of how much of a fortress the Lamb has been. But the away form was decent as well, like 7 wins on the road. That's probably kind of a key part of why Tamworth finished so high, Graham, because as the season went on, the team was picking up wins away from home.
Yeah, 100%. I think we all said, yeah, the home form's going to be absolutely key. We're going to have to pick up points at home. We're going to have to be strong at home. And we knew that the way the Lamb is and everything that we've got there, the advantage we play with the pitch and just the crowd being on top of you and all of that, I think we proved exactly why it is a fortress, and it lost that touch for a good few years, but it's absolutely got it back now with the atmosphere, and it's given it a new lease of life, really. And when the place is in a good shape and the fans are behind it, then I think it's quite an intimidating ground for some of these opposition players to come to. And then with the away form, it's grown in confidence, hasn't it? It's over the course of the season, we looked really sort of at the start, we really didn't look confident going away from home. We couldn't keep hold of the ball and stuff. And yeah, that could have been really our sort of downfall, but we've sort of ridden through that. And going into the latter sort of half of the season, you felt really in every game, whether it was home or away. I said it to Brett at Altrincham, we were playing like we do at home with that same confidence, with that same high press, and just it didn't really look much different, to be honest. And I think that's how much the team had come on over time, that we've gone from being completely sort of unconfident and not really knowing what to do to coming out of our shell, and then being this sort of basically playing the same football as we do at home and being as confident. And yeah, just hope we can continue that into next season. It'll be the same thing again. We've got to keep that home form going. But yeah, let's try and just take that confidence into next season now.
Well, as it is a season review episode, it means we get to go over our predictions league final placings. So prior to the Fylde and Altrincham games, I'd already won our predictions league, but there was just a point between Graham and Brett. So much to play for in terms of second and third place. So for Fylde, we all said Tamworth would win, but none of us got the scoreline correct. And then for the Altrincham game, Graham said Tamworth would win. Brett said it would be a draw, but didn't get the score correct. And I said it would be a defeat. So that meant Brett got a point to level it up with Graham. So it means you both end the season on 28 points, just a little bit behind me with 47, I should point out. I haven't arranged a tiebreaker or anything like that because you are essentially battling it out for avoiding the wooden spoon. But I will eagerly await whatever little present you decide to get me. Hint, hint, for winning the title. But maybe we need to change our little point system next year to avoid what it turning into a rout again next season.
I'm
Yes.
pleased with my performance. I pulled that back stupendously. For a bonus point, who do you think is going to win the Birmingham Senior Cup? I think 4-0 to Tamworth. In fact, no, I don't think 4-0 to Tamworth. I think 4-1 to Tamworth.
Even with the benefit of knowing the score, Brett, your dab hand when it comes to predictions continues. So as we wrap up this episode, like any any very, very early hopes, Graham, for next season? I know there's a whole summer in between now and then, and who knows, what player incomings and outgoings will be, but what would kind of success look like for you at this early juncture?
Think success next season, first and foremost, has to be making sure that we stay in the league. And success then would be how we've done this season or better outside playoffs. Why not? If we can keep the core of the squad together, I hope we can. We're the best part-time team in the country. Our players are part-time. Some of them, I think, some of the younger lads might get snapped up. We've done really, really well. But if we can keep the core together and the sort of obviously the team spirit that's carried us through, and then add in some areas where we need it and make good loan signings throughout the season, then I don't see why not we can't do the same again because we've got a formula. I'm sure there'll be tweaks in the way that we play depending on who's retained, etc. But yeah, we can just keep that momentum and sort of ride that wave and continue what we were doing. And yeah, my expectation is that based on that, we should stay up again, and then we should do what we've done. We should be okay. But you've got to be realistic. We have to be realistic because there's teams coming down from League Two, makes it more difficult. We know the teams that are coming up now in terms of Boreham Wood and Scunthorpe. I mean, Scunthorpe, obviously, we know what they're about, what they're going to, they're a big club. And then you've got kind of you've got Brackley and Truro, which are going to be kind of smaller clubs, which is interesting. People probably predict that Tamworth will go down, I imagine, but who cares what they think? We've proved that we can compete in this league, and I think as long as we do those things that I've said about keeping the core of the squad together and the mentality and the team spirit, I think we'll have another good season again. Yeah.
Are there any of the new additions, Brett, next season, club wise, that you're most looking forward to playing? I think Truro is probably the one that sticks out for me as being very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's an hour away from me, so I can't wait for the Truro away game. I just hope it's start of the season somewhere and it's not during the midst of a Cornish winter on a Tuesday night. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. Morecambe as well. Nice trip to the seaside. Yeah, there's some good fixtures in there. But I think just back to Graham's point a minute ago, where he said he thinks people will tip us to go down. I really don't think they will. I think people will look at us again this season and think that we should be pushing on from where we are. What we have got the benefit of this time as well is we've got teams like Truro, for example, who have never been in the conference and are playing at the highest level that they've ever played in. So that's a big step for them. We've already took that step, and now we're not the new boys anymore. And I do think that next year we're not going to see the obviously Oldham, Southend, Forest Green, and York can't all go up. Barnet have gone up, but I think other than those, I don't think I don't think we're going to go to these sorts of clubs next season and get beat 3-4-0 again. I really don't. I think we'll have a much more consistent season.
We will leave it there for this episode of the Tamworth FC Social podcast. Thanks for listening throughout this season. You can follow us on social media at TFC Social Pod. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. We'll be back with some episodes over the summer. And until next time, goodbye.